Hello and welcome to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. You are listening to our midweek podcast, as always, but not as always on Thursday. It is on Thursday today, but I'm sorry, it is on Wednesday today, but usually on Thursdays. But we call it our midweek podcast now because it varies depending on our guest availability and my availability. So, Health Solutions midweek podcast, and it varies on time. So, tune in, and you might be watching on my personal Facebook page or the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy's YouTube site. We are streaming live on both those platforms, and also you can catch us after the fact on most of the podcast forums, I should say. So iTunes, Google Podcast, SoundCloud, and so on. So go to those forums. Like us, subscribe, comment, ask some questions about content. What would you guys like for content, or maybe future guests? We always keep this health related, so let us know if you'd like to hear about some topic. I just have to say a big thank you to the Castros again for being on our radio show and sharing their daughter's story Monday. If you haven't seen that yet, please go check it out. It is on the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy YouTube sites archived, and it's just a powerful story of how a young girl's life was saved by the keto diet. And speaking of keto diet, in a couple weeks, on Monday, July 13th, we will have Amber Winnieworth from Lone Star Keto Girl. She's got a big Instagram following. Go to her Instagram, Lone Star Keto Girl, and follow her. She has been doing the keto diet stuff with the keto diet for years, and I'm actually going to talk to her a little bit about the history of the keto diet and talk about the history of the keto diet with epilepsy. So. And on Monday's show, we will have David Michael back from Cliffhanger Academy. As always, on Mondays, our Monday radio show / podcast, we stream live 1 to 2 p.m. every Monday at the AM 1470 KBSN studio in Moses Lake. We'll have David Michael from Cliffhanger Academy back. You don't want to miss that. So now back on to today. We are in Moses Lake today, and we're doing it a day early because I am headed on vacation tomorrow. I will be in beautiful Wyoming, Jackson Hole tomorrow at their bike park. I'm super excited about that. And so I leave tonight, so I'm super excited about that. And then next week I will be in Idaho, loving Idaho. Most of July I'm going to be in Idaho again because of Washington being locked down. So speaking of Washington being locked down, and not everything is locked down in Washington, that's for sure. There's still 5 counties, I guess, that are in lockdown, which means they're still in phase 1. And that's the Tri-Cities, so Benton, Franklin County, and that's the Wenatchee area, Chelan, Douglas County, and then Yakima County are still in phase 1. They're the only counties in Washington State that are, I believe. And as you guys know, last Friday, Governor Jay Inslee of Washington put in a mandatory mask wearing policy if you're going to be within 6 feet of somebody, or I can't remember all the details, but I did do a video on that, and it was a COVID challenge video, and it actually didn't have much to do with wearing masks. It was more to do with the COVID challenge that I still have open now, is that hospitals are not going to be overwhelmed from this COVID. Hospitals at first that were overwhelmed, it was very, very few that were overwhelmed, and they were very, very localized. And my thing is that I have my COVID challenge is that hospitals are not going to be overwhelmed, and here's the details of that. Hospitals are not going to be overwhelmed, which means they're not going to be overwhelmed with COVID patients, and especially COVID patients as a primary diagnosis. And if they are full to capacity, it's not due to being out of beds, it's due to being out of staffing. Now, why are some of those hospitals out of staffing? Many of those hospitals are out of staffing because they laid many of their employees off. And so they don't have the staffing to take care of the patients appropriately. There again, I believe the government caused the problem by by saying that the hospitals had to do non-essential essential services only. I believe the government caused that problem of the hospitals not being able to staff appropriately. Speaking of the government causing problems, this is nothing new. On our podcast radio show, my book talks about Sickened, how the government ruined healthcare and how to fix it. My book is available on Amazon, Kindle form right now. I'm working on a paperback edition. And go to Amazon, download Sickened, how the government ruined healthcare and how to fix it. If you look at many of these problems I see in healthcare today, whether it be pricing, whether it be access, or whether it be with the hospitals not having enough staff because of COVID, I think those are government-caused problems. If we let the free market fix those things, they probably would have never happened in the first place, and it definitely wouldn't take 4 or 5 months. That's for sure. It would be fixed a lot faster. So what was the purpose of my whole video to begin with? My COVID challenge video, it didn't really have to do with wearing masks or not wearing masks. It really had to do with hospital capacity. If you notice in that video, you can go back to my Facebook and look at that short video. It's about a minute long, and the video went viral, and there were some trolls on my Facebook page. I won't mention their names. You guys can go back and look, who were not very happy about my opinion. Because one of my opinions on there, I didn't say I wasn't going to wear a mask. I didn't say I was going to wear a mask. I didn't tell anybody not to wear a mask. My belief is that we should make our own decision as individuals. There should not be a government mandate. Do I believe that wearing masks is going to make us safer and prevent the spread of COVID? I really don't know about that. I could probably find studies on either side of the aisle for sure. I do know this. COVID is a virus. Like most viruses, it's going to spread. So my theory is that if it is going to spread, let's do the best we can to take care of ourselves, make sure we're healthy. And if you feel like wearing a mask because you're not healthy or you are healthy, then wear a mask. But don't judge somebody for not wearing a mask. You have no idea the situation they're in. Why are they not wearing a mask? They might have a health condition. Who knows what the health condition might be? Honestly, it's really none of anybody else's business. And there might be other reasons for not wearing masks. I have my reasonings why I would or would not wear a mask, okay? And let's realize, before this whole thing happened, before this COVID thing happened, there were people that wore masks way before COVID, for whatever reason. Maybe they had a compromised immune system. Maybe they were on medication that decreased their immune response, so they wanted to protect themselves. Who knows? It's really none of anybody else's business why somebody wears a mask or doesn't wear a mask. So my whole point is that we should not judge people for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. That's the important thing. And if you look on that Facebook post where it went viral, and lots of positive comments and negative comments, mostly from one or two individuals, the negative comments. This individual was going to be on my podcast this morning, or he said that in the public forum. He was going to be on my podcast. He never did respond to me, so he decided I guess that he didn't want to come on and debate me about the topic. One thing I want to take away from that thread in that post was that, this individual said that he bought 10,000 N95 masks. So I don't know about the credibility of that, but I, as a pharmacy owner, I have a hard time buying one N95 mask. So I'm not sure how this individual bought 10,000 N95 masks. I wanted him to come on and discuss that, but he didn't want to come on my podcast. So speaking of coming on and calling, we do have an open phone line, 509-537-0411. Call, and I would love to discuss these things. I would definitely love to. So one of the goals of this radio show / podcast is to educate and empower individuals to take care of their own health care. And that is a very broad term. That means their own health care as far as their own bodies, and also that means finances, because we talk about that a lot too. I think people need to be responsible for their own health care when it comes to dollars too, because then they will treat themselves better, and they will value it, and they will also, like anything, they will get the best bang for their buck. So that's what the goal of this radio show is. And at Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy, my wonderful wife Janet and I, we have been educating and empowering individuals for 22 years of how to be responsible for their health care. And we have definitely went against the grain at our pharmacy. We do not toe the traditional road in our pharmacy, that's for sure. You can look at some past podcasts. One of the things is cholesterol killing us. I don't believe so. I don't believe the cholesterol thing. I don't believe that cholesterol is what causes most heart attacks and most cardiovascular disease. I definitely do not believe in statins. Statins are the drugs that treat high cholesterol. I would never take one. I would never let my immediate family take one. I don't think that they're preventing heart attacks at all. I just really don't. I think there's a lot bigger picture going on. That definitely goes against the grain. I'm not taught that. I wasn't taught that in pharmacy school. Most pharmacists, most doctors aren't taught that. They believe that statins really save lives. I don't buy that. So isn't it great in science, in medicine, we can all have varying opinions. If we didn't, we would never progress. Think about that. If we didn't have varying opinions, we would never progress. So let's just respect others' opinions. It doesn't mean you have to believe it. It doesn't mean that you don't have to believe it. But let's respect their opinions, because that's the only way we progress. What I do want to go back to is realize that it was only a little over 100 years ago that there was a medical student. Look this up. Don't trust me. Look it up. There was a medical student that was blackballed from medical school to become a doctor. Why? Because he suggested that doctors were killing patients. How were they killing patients? Well, he noted that when a doctor would deliver a baby, there was a higher incidence of complications, including death, than there was when the midwives would deliver babies. Interesting, right? Of course, the doctors did not like hearing that at all. And this is what his theory was. The doctors would hang out in the cadaver lab. They would, do their things in the cadaver lab, going over anatomy, going over physiology, all that kind of stuff. And they would come up and deliver a baby when the baby was due. And sometimes there were complications. Well, the doctors were not washing their hands. And what a concept. And the doctors they couldn't believe it. The medical school blackballed him. The doctors blackballed him. And all over doctors not washing their hands. Well, guess what? He happened to be right. It was a wild opinion for sure. And think about it. Aren't we glad that eventually we did, change some of the things we did because of that? So, there's nothing new about varying opinions. We all have varied opinions, and let's just respect people's opinions. And that goes to wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. With the COVID thing, I have a very wise, smart friend, and I want to make an analogy to the COVID. So, what is the number one reason for airplane crashes? The number one reason for airplane crashes. Well, guess what? The number one reason for airplane crashes is the pilot took off in the first place. Right? The airplane would never crash if the pilot never took off. Right? Okay. So if we really wanted to prevent all airplane crashes, the way we would prevent all airplane crashes is we would never fly. Well, I think, as most would agree, that's ridiculous. Although, there are people that probably don't want to fly, and they choose to do another mode of transportation, and great for them. So, here's the COVID thing. It's not going away. This COVID-19 is not going away. So, the only way we can completely prevent COVID from transmitting is for every single one of us to stay home indefinitely. Right? That's the only way to prevent it completely. So, or there's other ways to help to help what's called herd immunity is that, and I've done a video on this before, a podcast before, that, herd immunity is when 40 to 60% of the people are immune to that virus. Now, I know there's going to be some arguments. We don't know if we can get immune to this virus. I get that. No, we don't know. But if that's the case, if we can't, then that means a vaccine won't work also. But if we can, then that means healthy people spreading the virus is the best way to prevent a pandemic from happening, prevent hospitals from being overwhelmed. In fact, you could argue if masks do prevent transmission, all it is doing is prolonging the pandemic. If social distancing prevents transmission, all it is doing is prolonging the pandemic. So I'm just tired of it. I want it to be over. And again, as I said before on this podcast, the best way to defend yourself from any kind of virus or bacteria is to have a healthy body in the first place, a healthy immune system. And how we take care of ourselves is so important. And on that topic too, it's the best health insurance we have. There is no better health insurance than how we take care of ourselves. There is no policy. When we talk about health insurance, we think of some policy we can buy. There is no policy under the sun that we can buy that is better than what we can do to take care of our bodies. That is the best health insurance that we have. So, taking callers, I would appreciate any calls. Anybody have any comments? I would love to answer them. 509-537-0411. I really don't have a lot more today. I think what's important is that during this whole situation with the mask, wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, I think it's just really super important that we just don't judge individuals. You have no idea, I have no idea why somebody is wearing a mask or somebody isn't wearing a mask. So that's really all I have for today. Short session because after this, I am officially on vacation, and I am super looking forward to wonderful Jackson Hole Bike Park. Check out my Facebook page because I'll be posting some personal stuff of the trails up there. I'm super excited to be there. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate our listeners and viewers. And like, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, make comments. We really appreciate it. And tune in Monday where we have David Michael from Cliffhanger Academy back 1 to 2 p.m. We will be streaming live at the AM 1470 KBSN studio in Moses Lake, and here again on my Facebook and the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy's YouTube site. So we will see you then. Thank you for listening.